You walk into your room intending to clean it, and then you just stand there. Clothes hang over the chair that stopped being a chair months ago. Unopened mail spreads across the counter like it belongs there now. Random objects sit in places that make no sense, yet somehow you stopped noticing them weeks ago. People see this and assume one thing: laziness. But what if that isn't true at all? What if a constantly messy home is not a sign of failure, but a silent reflection of a mentally exhausted brain? Most people think cleaning is simple. You see a mess, organize it, and move on. But for some people, the struggle begins long before they pick anything up. A cluttered room can reflect cognitive overload, chronic stress, emotional exhaustion, or a nervous system stuck in survival mode. And strangely, the mess itself often makes that mental weight even heavier. In this video, we're exploring the psychology behind why some people struggle to keep their space clean, even when they genuinely want to. Because once you understand what may be happening beneath the surface, the mess starts to look very different. For many people, the problem is not motivation. It is mental overload. Psychologists often describe this through executive dysfunction, which affects the brain's ability to start tasks, organize actions, and stay focused long enough to finish them. You pick up a shirt from the floor and head toward the closet. On the way, you notice an empty bottle on your desk. You grab it, walk toward the kitchen, remember the dishes in the sink, and suddenly you're doing 3 different tasks while still holding the shirt you started with. The brain keeps switching targets faster than it can complete them. For people dealing with chronic stress or attention difficulties, clutter becomes more than disorganization. It becomes visual noise. Every object feels like another unfinished task demanding attention. Eventually, the brain stops trying to prioritize altogether. From the outside, that shutdown can look like laziness, when in reality it may be cognitive overload reaching its limit. There is also a deeper kind of exhaustion people rarely talk about. Not physical tiredness, but emotional depletion. The kind that quietly drains your ability to care about ordinary things. Washing dishes feels overwhelming. Folding laundry feels emotionally heavy. Even small tasks begin to require energy that simply is not there. And this is where the cycle becomes painful. Living in a messy environment often increases stress and self-criticism. But those emotions consume even more mental energy, making action even harder the next day. Over time, the mess stops feeling temporary. It begins to mirror how overwhelmed a person feels internally. Most chronically messy people are not comfortable in the chaos around them. They notice it constantly. The clutter becomes a silent reminder of everything they have not had the emotional capacity to deal with yet. Clutter does something strange to the brain. Even when you think you are ignoring it, your nervous system is still reacting to it in the background. Every unfinished pile and crowded surface quietly competes for your attention. Over time, that constant visual stimulation creates a low-grade form of stress that never fully turns off. This is why messy environments can feel mentally exhausting, even when nothing dramatic is happening. The room itself begins to feel cognitively loud. Relaxation becomes harder because the environment keeps subtly reminding your brain that something is unfinished. And the cruel irony is that the more overwhelmed someone feels by the clutter, the harder it becomes to clean it. The brain stops seeing individual tasks and starts seeing one enormous, impossible problem. One hidden reason clutter builds up is because cleaning is actually a non-stop series of decisions. Every object asks a question. Do I keep this? Where does it belong? Will I need it later? Those tiny decisions become mentally exhausting when they pile up day after day. Eventually, procrastination becomes avoidance. It feels easier to place something down for now than fully process it in the moment. A jacket stays on the chair, a receipt stays on the counter, an unopened box sits in the corner for weeks. The problem is that postponed decisions never truly disappear. They remain visible in the environment, quietly demanding attention every time you walk past them. After a while, the clutter stops looking like separate objects. It becomes emotional weight. What often makes this even worse is shame. The moment people feel judged for the condition of their home, cleaning stops feeling like self-care and starts feeling like evidence of failure. Comments like, "Just clean your room," may sound motivating, but psychologically they often create the opposite effect. Human beings naturally resist feeling controlled or criticized. Instead of creating motivation, shame creates paralysis. The mess starts carrying emotional meaning. It becomes guilt, embarrassment, and self-judgment. And because those emotions are uncomfortable, avoidance grows even stronger. This is why many people suddenly clean when someone is about to visit. Not because they finally gained energy, but because fear temporarily overrides exhaustion. The environments we live in can quietly shape the way our brains respond to stress and focus. Research suggests that highly chaotic spaces may affect attention, emotional regulation, and mental clarity over time, especially during childhood. When a home feels visually overwhelming, the nervous system can remain in a low-level state of stress without the person realizing it. Children growing up in highly disorganized environments often struggle more with filtering distractions and maintaining focus. But it is important to understand something carefully. A messy home does not automatically mean bad parenting or emotional neglect. Human lives are complicated. Stress, work schedules, financial pressure, health struggles, and exhaustion can all affect the condition of a living space. The point is not to assign blame. It is simply to recognize that our physical environments and mental states constantly influence each other. But messy environments are not always entirely negative. Human psychology is more complicated than simple clean equals good thinking. Some studies have found that slightly disorganized spaces can sometimes encourage more creative thinking and unconventional ideas. There may be a reason for this. Order reinforces structure and predictability. Disorder can sometimes loosen rigid thinking patterns and make the mind more open to experimentation. This is why many artists and creative thinkers describe their spaces as controlled chaos rather than perfect order. Of course, chronic clutter can still increase stress over time, but it challenges the idea that a perfectly clean room always reflects a perfectly healthy mind. So, where does all of this leave us? Maybe in a more compassionate place than where we started. Because if a messy space can reflect stress, emotional exhaustion, attention overload, or mental fatigue, then the solution is not self-hatred. It is understanding. Most people living in clutter are not failing because they do not care. In many cases, they care deeply. They are simply overwhelmed in ways that are difficult to explain to others. And strangely enough, small acts of cleaning can sometimes become small acts of recovery. Not because a clean house magically fixes your life, but because restoring physical order can help restore a sense of control inside the mind. Even tiny actions matter. Clearing one corner of a desk, throwing away one piece of trash, folding one shirt. The important thing is to stop viewing cleanliness as a measure of personal worth. A messy room does not determine your value as a human being. It may simply reflect a period of exhaustion, stress, overload, or emotional survival. So if you recognized yourself somewhere in this video, you are probably far from alone. Most people are fighting invisible mental battles that never fully show on the surface. Sometimes those battles appear in the form of exhaustion, unfinished tasks, and rooms that slowly became heavier than they seem. And maybe the goal is not perfection. Maybe it is understanding yourself with a little more honesty and a little less shame. If this video resonated with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the psychology of everyday life.